Hello everyone, it's me, Team Mario C, and welcome to a review of the Map 10 patch notes, going over everything you need to know at the beginning of the golden age of Cosmicsky. That is apparently what we're going to be covering today. I'm also going to quickly go over some of the changes and highlights of the previous map, as it's the first map I've played in a while, and it would be good to go over some things. So before I get into the new things that have been added in map 10, if you want to find out my reactions and learn about them, you can skip forward to this timestamp, but otherwise I'm going to quickly recap the map 9 release. At the beginning of map 9 we had the introduction of adventure levels. These have been added to every adventure from the abandoned ruins through to the abyss. You get a daily XP multiplier for an hour every day, and that multiplier increases every day up to 5 times. And then you can see the base values for this. However, the Celestial Marauder no longer counts, no longer gives any adventure XP, so that has been removed. But everything else, all these other numbers here are correct. And then the captains use a 5x multiplier. We also have, alongside that, the addition of A-kits, which are the best way to start grinding at the beginning of a new adventure. They give you basic enchants like Well-Fed, Bandit Barrier and Angelic at low levels, and those kits improve as you get higher adventure levels. They are very, very good at the start of an adventure. I cannot stress this enough. They make the early adventure grinding so much better, and you can see a list of some of the perks for the abandoned ruins here, as well as some of the other perks as well. There were a whole bunch of custom recipes that got added last map, but there is going to be a bunch of those changed for this map too, so I'm not going to focus on those. We also had the introduction of island bound resources, where you can't take a huge variety of raw materials out of a specific island. If you want to use them in a specific recipe, you have to use them on that island. This was to try and cut down on the use of alt islands, in a sense that you have to do everything in-house. You can't move things across and make, I don't know, a whole bunch of one recipe on one island and then use that to make the next higher tier recipe on another island. That's basically the general idea. And we have a bunch of other things to talk about. In order to facilitate that though, they added something called the Autobot EXP and Trophy Nullifier. These allow you to place additional Autobots on your island at the cost of not gaining any island EXP or trophies from those Autobots. As well as we had buffs to the Sky Wars, which continue to be modified throughout the map. Sky Wars is now an incredibly good event to do, so make sure you're participating in it. As well as we have the Advent Calendar and Christmas things over the course of the last map. We have the addition of vaults, which are also getting improved continuously. They were kind of a basic version of these last map, but now in map 10, as we all get to, they're going to be improved further. Basically, you can get a tiered key in adventure loot tables. You can take this to either the lawful or the neutral vault to get access to tiered chests. The key determines the minimum rarity of the loot, and obviously the higher tier the minimum, the more chests you can get, but you can get any tier or any rarity of loot if it's unlocked in the fund from any key. You just have to get lucky. So there's a mix of RNG and a mix of guaranteed loot, but obviously the chest loot itself, there's no guarantee it's good either. We had 3 new enchants added to the game: Resourceful, Overclock and Death Sentence. Overclock as an elite enchant has become kind of basically a meta pick for adventure grinding. Resourceful takes up Chronos procs, so it's not the best for max sets, though might be useful for survivability on demi or bad sets. Death Sentence is kind of the alternative to Boss Slayer, where you can apply it to a sword to instantly kill a captain. It's basically like Executioner for captains, but it stacks with Executioner and procs more often in the limited experience I had testing it. Beyond that though, we had lots of Christmas changes, Christmas CC, blah blah blah. Some electric updates or electricity updates, we have a whole bunch of new chunk booster modules, but also the addition of electric beehives, which are very powerful actually. Massive improvement over regular beehives because they automatically grow a 2x2 area instead of a 1x1. But they do consume a smallish amount of electricity. We also have island chunk boosters that are powered by electricity. These consume a significant amount of electricity, but they give you an additional chunk booster. You can place one per chunk, quite powerful indeed. And here are all of the new chunk boosters that I added, mostly boosting auto bot resource gain, trophies, as well as island EXP. There's been some fuel audits, and we also had the addition of overkill on auto slayers. This is going to make killing low tier mobs much more easy with the same auto slayer setup. It means that for recipes that are dependent on low tier auto slayer drops, like if you have a demonic recipe that has a path or has a chain of crafting recipes that relies on a drop from chickens, for example, you need only a small number of auto slayers to kill a really large quantities of chickens, which has the consequence of making spawners of basically every tier valuable for quite a long time. So spawners are no longer like dead items, or basically spawners continue to have value much more often during the map. There's been some changes to chaotic zones where the value of the chaotic has been kind of redistributed to make it that the mobs are tankier and reward more points instead of just being higher rarity and denser than regular zones. They also, at the end of the map, made some changes to Abyss, adding a massive lawful zone as well as much better neutral and chaotic zones. However, the loot itself is a bit mediocre. And they've also warned us about the change in map 10, which is moving to version 1.21.11. And now we're moving on to the details of the patch notes for map 10, the Golden Age. And there's a big reason we have it called the Golden Age. We've got a lot of changes to gold, as well as many other things. So let's go over them. First and foremost, we have a fundamental change to the IS fishing skill. The old rod and fish out system has been replaced once more with trident fishing. This brings the skill in line with the other skills as something that you will need to do during IS questing. You will need to get a trident instead of a fishing rod in order to fish, and you will also need to get bait blocks, which are basically what nodes, spawners and seeds are to the other skills. Bait blocks are to fishing. There's going to be a hard cap, a very low cap on the number of bait blocks you can get at the beginning of the map. This is due to performance concerns. Expect larger increases over the first several days. There's no guarantee this happens because it could be more of a performance hit than they expect, but assuming all goes well, you should be able to do IS fishing quests fairly readily. The trident is not a PvP or PvE tool, it's just like the original fishing rod. You can't use it for that stuff. They're expecting to add enchants, and it also has different tiers, so obviously there's stone, iron, diamond, another trident, just like the other IS tools. The introduction of trident fishing means that the fresh fish and farmed fish distinction no longer applies. Instead, you will need bait blocks for auto fishers to work like miner bots. The fisherman Fred pet has been changed to being a fishing quest pet, which means it will be useful again like the miner Matt and farmer Bob. And there are also changes to various other things related to fishing that I'm not going to go over the details of here, but the main thing is that questing is going to be fundamentally different, as now you will need a fourth tool, the trident. Moving on to science and technology, science and gold is going to see a major shake-up this map. Science was an important resource for many areas, but it's now expanding in its purposes, and the ways of obtaining them are more niche, and you will no longer be able to just get to Demonic Adventure and start farming the Jesus out of science. I had like a max upgraded Autobot mining a full rotation of enriched science nodes last map, and I just had so many science blocks. That is not in the game anymore. The gold nodes have been removed. Instead, there are going to be a bunch of new ways to get scrap. One of them is golden meteorites. They will rain down across the surface of the adventures, and when you mine them, you will be able to get gold from them. Possibly, as a consequence, this means that you will want to get a pickaxe to bring into adventure quite early on. That's my assumption. I assume you can't mine it with your fist. Don't know about that again because we haven't actually gotten a chance to play it. There's also a new mob, the Golden Warrior, found throughout the adventure within POIs, has some unique drops, and can drop PvE science enchantment gems, as well as science socket expanders. This is the renamed version of Aethertech. For those of you that don't know, a facility exclusive enchant before, Aethertech has been renamed to Science enchants to Technology enchants. They require Science to activate, but are now going to be obtained in a variety of ways instead of by killing the corruption mobs and the stalker inside the facility. So they're going to play a much bigger part of the meta because they are going to be much more obtainable, and science gold in low quantities will still be obtained in adventure loot tables. Yeah, it's going to have the same purposes, so you can use it in the science shop, in potion trinkets, but also in examining, applying and activating technology enchantments, facility access cards, and more features in the future. Furthermore, this is quite important, but there's going to be a multiplier on the cost of science consumption in higher tier adventures. So if you have like a diamond technology enchant, it will be a much higher science cost. So bear that in mind. The idea here is that science is going to have more of a serious eco around it throughout the duration of the map, instead of basically falling off a cliff and only being bought for relatively cheaply in massive quantities. The Golden Forge has now made a visit to spawn. You will no longer need to go to the facility to reach it, and that will give you a chance to open any of the technology enchantments you get from adventure, in the case of the Golden Warriors, for PvE enchants. The facility in the case of the technology PvP enchants, but also skill technology gems, which according to this are going to be exclusive to island quests. And the socket expanders can be found from Golden Warriors, and those expanders can be used with any type of technology gem. Furthermore, technology dust can be obtained and is required in order to dust down the new technology enchantments. Scrolling back up, there is also the addition of golden vaults. This is a variation of the vault system that was added last map, which has a much longer cooldown, but gives you an opportunity to earn not only science scrap, but also a chance to earn technology enchantment dust. Not sure how balanced this is going to be, but it certainly means that the vaults themselves will be a far more valuable endeavour, because even the low tier keys are going to be able to be used to harvest technology enchantment dust, which means that they're going to be quite valuable indeed. So you'll have to bear that in mind. If you get a vault key during the adventure, that's a GG, basically, no matter what. I'm not going to go over all of the technology enchantment stuff here, just because a lot of that is already in the game. There is a new enchant called Quest Drive, which is basically just a technology enchant for questing, and they're planning on adding more as the map goes on. Obviously, I mentioned this in map 9 recap, but they've added a bunch of new recipes again this map, in addition to the ones that were already in the game, I think. we'll have to go and have a look at those to see what fantastic rewards we'll be able to get our hands on. Obviously, I haven't done any of the maths for this yet. We also have brand new mutated mobs, meaning that at every single checkpoint there will be a mutated mob for them. At checkpoint number 1, the combination of rabbits and chickens will give us allays, which is going to be actually probably really important for early game questing and player XP to make sets. And then there is also no longer a cap on the number of mutated mob spawners you can fit within the mutated mob spawner. It's just that the number of spawners required to boost them will continue to go up exponentially. This, alongside the overkill changes I mentioned earlier, means that spawners are gonna be really valuable, because you can this mutated mob spawner, I'm not sure it's affected at all by the island-wide spawner placement cap. So this might go absolutely insane, and I'm really looking forward to it, frankly. That seems awesome. Some tweaks have been made to IS mining in order to hopefully balance out questing across the board. Obviously, I haven't done much questing, so I'm not going to speak to the nature of these changes. So it seems to be focused on lapis, copper, emerald, obsidian, and pris, which is like mid to late game nodes. So hopefully those are more balanced now. But based on the numbers here, it feels like, with probably the exception of copper, all nodes that you used before will now reward more EXP, but have a far longer cooldown when mined manually, if that makes sense. There's also been some island EXP audit changes, removing about 20 billion EXP from the total required to hit island level 40, which is fantastic. And they've also rearranged the levels in which you increase the width and height of the island, which means you'll have more space for all of the activities you want to engage in. And last but certainly not least, we have the beginning of the move to latest versions. Previously 1.20.4 was the recommended version for Cosmicsky, but in the near future 1.21.11 will be the exclusive version, and we're expecting new features this map that will take advantage of 1.21.11 mechanics. And then at the very end we have a little teaser about the largest PvP/PvE content update that the Cosmicsky has ever seen. The facility, which is one of my favourite places as representing the pinnacle of the adventure experience, seems to be getting another expansion that will see us needing to make use of all of the technology enchants and probably making the best sets possible. So if you're starting this map, make sure you get some good gear, and I will see you in the chain facility for hopefully some very exciting things indeed. But that is it for the changes that are being released at the start of the world. I'm very excited for all of them, very excited to get to grinding, to having more accessible Aether enchant, technology enchants now, as well as the Golden Warriors, Golden Meteorites, and a whole bunch of new items and new recipes and new stuff to figure out and optimize. So that is going to be it for this video. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening. Hopefully this was a effective summary of what you have in store. I would highly recommend, if you have time, reading the patch notes yourself to determine what you will want to really care about, because I have been skimming over them to the best of my ability. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye.